Our topic today is the light that shines behind the darkness. And I may have mentioned, but my name's Emily. There's a seed quote that goes with this topic, and it kind of goes with the song we just heard and we sang along with. For long enough, you have given your thought to worldly matters. Now turn your mind towards the eternal. And that was words from Anandamayi Ma, who was a saint and teacher in India, a contemporary of Paramahansa Yogananda, the teacher of Sunburst founder Norm. It's an interesting time of year to hear that advice. There's so much going on, so many holidays packed into this part of the year, and so much busyness and so much activity, and there's programs at school because there's going to be a big long break, and there's parties to go to, or all kinds of things drawing our attention outward. And yet, all the more important is it to turn our attention inward to what's beyond all this. And the earth is kind of in a more inward phase. There's not as much light during the days. We're approaching winter solstice, which is the shortest length of light in the day and the longest length of night. And so how do we find that light? How do we find what's the eternal amidst all this activity of worldly life? How do we find the light that's shining behind it all? How do we find the eternal? I think partly we need to get our mind around the idea that it's there, and then we can go for it. At first, if we're not even thinking about it being there behind everything, then we're definitely not going to be looking for it. So that's where I started with when I was preparing to talk about the light that shines behind the darkness. Another thing that Anandamayi Ma said was, whether you worship Christ, Krishna, Kali, or Allah, you actually worship the one light that is also in you, since it pervades all things. Everything originates from light. Everything in its essence is light. We don't always see it. I know I get caught up thinking about everything mundane that's on my to-do list. I know physically I don't see the light. You know, if it's dark, if it's a cloudy night and there's not much moon out here, I can't see the hand in front of my face sometimes, and which is startling. But I know, conceptually, I know there's stars, there's moon, there's a sun that's going to come up tomorrow. All of that is out there. I never have a doubt at all. And so I think a goal for us could be, can we remember that when we are we cannot see a single great, wonderful thing about the circumstance we're finding ourselves in? That's like not being able to see the hand in front of our face. There's not a single bit of light shining through that circumstance. There's not a single bit of light coming out of the way that person's acting. I mean, let alone ourselves acting, but usually it seems like we turn towards how other people are acting. But how can we remember that that's behind? I think that when we focus on put our attention to that, especially if we take the time in our deeper meditations to put our attention to that, that can help it root in us a little bit more. And then it's just an ongoing practice. We have to make a habit of returning our attention to that concept, so that we can see this beautiful light that's shimmering behind everything that exists. One of the things that Norm said once was, each one of us, created in God's image, is a galaxy of light particles, a whole system of tiny stars, moving in a ghostly image like unto the figures of human beings. So how can we remember ourselves to be that way and act from that space and not from the headspace of our humanity, our only. We could be human, but to remember that we also have this light source, that's the divine source within us. I don't actually have the answers for you. The question, keep asking the question is the best way to get to the answer, I think. So I know I asked that a lot of times, and maybe I led you to think I was going to answer that. Sorry. But one of the things that comes up sometimes when you listen to someone's near-death experience, where they have, like physically, they appear to be dying and maybe dead, like no heartbeat anymore for an amount of time that makes people think they're dying. But then they come back in and they've experienced something beyond, and they talk about it, is that the light is benevolent. The light knows you. Everything shines into every part of you. He is every part of everything. Everything that you thought was not so great or that you thought was great, all of it is seen, all of it is known, all of it is loved. So no matter how we are, when we sit and meditate to ask the light to be known to us, there's nothing we need to fear it seeing. There's nothing we need to be holding back about. And it can move in us and guide us if we wish to develop more kindness. It can guide us in that. But there is no judgment in that light. And so we can be open and safe with it when we call it into our experience. So I think that's about all I'm going to say before we meditate. Let's find a comfortable position that will allow us to have an open breathing, like maybe have your shoulders back. You can kind of find your seat in a way that lets your spine be somewhat straight and your breathing open and your body comfortably still for about 15 minutes. And we'll take Yogananda's advice. You can drive the darkness away by opening your spiritual eye in deep meditation, filling your consciousness with its all-revealing divine light. So you may wish to help your concentration on the light to imagine that you're looking out through the point between your eyebrows. And allow your eyes to also be comfortably still. And let your breathing be relaxed. If your mind wanders, you can just go back to that point of concentration in your breath and envision that benevolent, all-knowing, all-loving light shining into you. There is no separation between ourselves and the divine. All perceptions of separateness are an illusion. Yogananda used the analogy of you're like a wave in the ocean of spirit. The wave is not separate, but it is just a small part of the whole, having its journey and experiences. But if it chooses, it can remember that it's part of the ocean. And if we continue to put our attention to our being part of the light of spirit, we can remember that as well. And we can help each other see it in each other. Help others see it in themselves. It's natural that we're going to have times where we forget and we lose track of being a part of the light. And it's important that we have that view as much as we can, viewing the light, seeing the light, and recognizing the light in each other, so that when someone does forget, they have people all around or seeing it in them and helping rekindle that awareness. Yogananda stated that the darkness may reign in a cave for thousands of years, but bring in the light and the darkness vanishes as though it had never been. When we have a period of darkness where we can't connect with that awareness and can't seem to find our way back, remember that advice and remember the darkness that we're experiencing physically at the solstice here in the winter. In the summer, it will be a distant memory that the days are so short, and it will be like normal. And yet it will come back, that we'll feel the dark again, but it's a reminder there. We can always get back to the light. Let's close with a prayer. You're welcome to join me if you'd like. Divine Spirit, I am that I am, being of limitless bliss, part of our hearts. Let us not forget you. Let us not forget our own true nature. Let us recognize the light in all we meet. Let us be guided by the light within. I'm very grateful to get together with each of you shining lights in this circle today. I'm grateful that so many examples of light in our physical world are here as a reminder. It came across this very short and very beautiful poem from T.S. Eliot. Light, light, the visible reminder of invisible light. So when you're out seeing Christmas lights sparkling around the towns, or if you're out on a dark, clear night and see the stars swept across the sky, any light you see physically, let it be a reminder of that inner light.
Let thy whisper in the temple of silence guide me to the right path. Let thy whisper in the temple of silence guide me to the right path that leads to thee. To thee, that leads to thee, that leads to thee, that leads to thee. Let thy whisper in the temple of silence guide me to the right path. Let thy whisper temple of silence guide me to the right path that leads to thee, 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 that leads to thee. To thee. guide me to the right